how do you know when you've beaten a game? I mean, there are usually a few obvious signs, like a really dramatic cinema, or the credits rolling, or maybe even a good old-fashioned game over screen. But what do you do when you aren't entirely sure you beat a game? You see, that's the issue I'm running into right now with Lost Brothers, a first-person story-driven game that just ends. Instead of giving you a cool cinema or some kind of payoff, this game abruptly fades to black in the middle of a sentence. And guys, trust me, that's only the start of the problems for Lost Brothers. What I normally like to do when I review a game is to talk about the setup without spoiling too much of the story. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that's even possible when it comes to Lost Brothers, since I don't think there's anything to spoil. This tells the story of kid brothers who, like a lot of people, like to go camping in the summertime. It's on one of these trips when Sam mysteriously goes missing. His backpack was left behind and his brother John is able to follow the footsteps, but Sam is nowhere to be found. We pick up with John a decade later, long after everybody has given up hope on finding the lost brother. He's returned to the campsite in order to drink a few beers and pay tribute to the memory of Sam. But before John even has a chance to get settled in, he's contacted by a woman named Samantha who is trapped underneath a bunch of rocks in a nearby cave. This sends him on a mission to save the girl and, well, pretty much just do that. What John doesn't realize is that Samantha is lying to him. Instead of being trapped under a bunch of rocks, she's actually stuck in another world with no way to escape. Oh, and surprise, now John is there too. What makes this strange new world so curious is that there are diary entries from the missing brother Sam littering the path, with each of them filling in the story of what happened over the last 10 years. Now, John isn't just picking up the diary pages from Sam because he's also keeping in contact with the missing girl Samantha. A lot of the story is told through these brief conversations over walkie-talkies, some of which give you the options on what to say next. We walk along the path and explore the small environments, all while hoping that it's leading somewhere. Unfortunately, it's not. This path only leads to disappointment. Where did Sam go? Who is this Samantha girl? What's with all these stairs and bridges? How do we even get out of this strange underground world? What the hell is going on? These are all great questions that are frustratingly never answered. Or maybe they are and I'm just missing something. After following the path and picking up the letters from Sam, the game just ends. And I don't mean that it ends in like an artsy way that leaves things open to interpretation, but rather that it fades to black and sends you back to the title screen. And to make matters worse, it does this while John is talking. It literally fades to black mid-sentence. Check it out and see for yourself. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Cyril, I bet you did something wrong. The truth is, that was also my first thought too. So I decided to play through the game a second time and look for alternate paths and some clues to the story. But here's the thing, it all ended in the exact same way. And then when I looked up the playthroughs on YouTube, I found other gamers running into the exact same problem. Clearly something is seriously wrong with Lost Brothers. Of course, this is far from the only disappointing thing about this game. For one thing, the writing is terrible and filled with spelling and grammar problems. The story it's attempting to tell isn't especially deep or compelling, and the adventure itself is little more than walking down a path and picking up floating pages. There's also the matter of drifting when John stands still. It's subtle at first, but when you aren't moving, the game has a funny way of pushing you in one direction. It's almost like you're on ice and slowly sliding across the stages. But look, as annoying as it is, that's the kind of thing I could probably get over if the story was gripping. I mean, you barely notice it when you're walking around. The problem is that the story just isn't very good, and the way the game abruptly ends feels like a mistake. Also, and maybe this is just a pet peeve of mine, but John isn't nearly angry enough at Samantha for tricking him into traveling to a brand new world against his will. Especially when there's a chance that he's gonna die there. And the conversations they end up having are often shallow and pointless, usually coming across like two robots trying their hardest to act human. It's possible, I suppose, that there's a great reason for the lame story and robotic dialogue, but considering that every part of Lost Brothers feels like a first draft, I'm not sure I should give the developers the benefit of the doubt on this one. There are a lot of things I don't understand about Lost Brothers. I'm confused about the paper-thin story, the ugly alien world, the robotic dialogue, and why the hero seems to drift in one direction when you're just standing still. This is a poorly made adventure game on every single level, and I'm straining real hard to find something nice to say. The fact that it ends without answering any questions or giving us closure is the final nail in the coffin. Oh, I think it's safe to say that John shouldn't have chased after Samantha, and neither should you. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. And here's the question I have for you. What is a game that should have ended before its real ending? That is to say, what's a game that could have been cut down in length or avoided a terrible ending? That Bionic Commando reboot is probably a good example of what I'm talking about. It's a solid 3D action game, but man, that cheesy ending's the only thing that people remember. Let me see your picks in the comments below. We'll be back tomorrow with a review of Hypergalactic Psychic Table Tennis 3000. Which is basically the Pong role-playing game you've always wanted. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.